Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for joining this webinar focused on search and AI analytics with ThoughtSpot and SME Group in the energy and utility space. I really appreciate everyone for joining. As far as the agenda goes today, we're going to roll through the purpose of this webinar and provide some introductions on the speakers. We're going to talk about SME as an organization and how we are working with ThoughtSpot on a partnership driven on search-based analytics. A little bit about ThoughtSpot as an organization, the feature and function of the tool. We're going to get a demo on that. We're then going to jump right into a utility-focused demo specifically with data and information that would be very familiar to the group here on the call. And then we're going to talk about industry experience and how SME is working with ThoughtSpot as a platform for our customers and providing insights and self-service. Followed up by question and answer. Please feel free throughout the course of this to send in your questions. We're going to, of course, get to a few of them, and those that we do not get to answer on the presentation, we will follow up with individuals personally. We'll be tracking names and such. So please be engaged, and please feel free to submit questions. A little bit about the speakers. My name is Chris Moyer, President and CEO of SME Solutions Group. The company was founded in 2011, so 8 years here on April 12th. And the focus was really on business process design in the analytics and BI space, specifically for the vertical of utility and energy expertise. I spent 16 years approximately supporting directly as an employee some of the investor-owned utilities like Exelon Corporation, Florida Power and Light, and NextEra and Reliant Energy, and really just saw data becoming a big deal. So the focus of the company was really to harness that within the smart metering and smart grid space and provide support for customers, really with the focus of speaking with facts and acting on the data that you have at your palms. The next speaker is going to be Brian McCarthy. Brian is the Senior Vice President of Worldwide Sales at ThoughtSpot. Brian comes with a slew of experience in the sales and leadership role around enterprise software, supporting numerous industries and verticals. And Brian is going to talk about the impact that ThoughtSpot is having and the disruption currently in the space. Also, a little bit about ThoughtSpot's entry into the Gartner BI Top Quadrant. So thank you, Brian, for joining us. Along with Brian from ThoughtSpot is going to be Eric Lakotic. Eric is the channel sales engineer with ThoughtSpot. And Eric's focus comes with 15 years of leading BI solutions for numerous Fortune 100 customers. And he is supporting the channel and customer solutions and use cases. And Eric's going to be giving us a specific demo on the feature and function of the relational search engine of ThoughtSpot. Next up will be George Barrett. George is an SME Solutions Group solutions engineer, certified BI developer and architect, supporting various industries on everything from the technical as well as the strategy and best practices for companies to uncover insights. And his demo is going to be very utility focused on the meter reading, alarms, and work order area. So that should be very insightful for the group. Also, we have Ron Katzman. Ron is the Director of Strategy and Operations, comes with 15 years plus experience supporting multiple utilities. Ron is also a very process-driven Six Sigma black belt, so using data to drive process improvement, and a huge focus on smart city, smart grid, smart metering. And Ron's going to share how ThoughtSpot and SME is making a difference, specifically in the industry that we are all in. So a little bit about us. SME supports numerous verticals, as you can see there, but our core stroke is in the energy and utility space due to our employees' background along with myself, but a focus on business intelligence and analytics integration. We do software development, resale, training, implementation, a huge focus on the softer stuff around data governance and BI governance, right? So it's not just technical support that we provide, and always focusing on quality and process. Results you can see and feel. We take a lot of pride in the fact that we also enhance the collaboration between IT and the business. Certainly probably a struggle for some of the folks that are on this call. And we're going to show you specifically how we do that and how ThoughtSpot as a platform enables that. We also focus on increasing the speed of decision making for our executives from a CEO level all the way down to a CSR type level, and true enhancement of self-service analytics. As you will see here, ThoughtSpot is certainly the closest thing to true self-service and true query and true search. So by no means do you have to be a developer or architect to use this solution and tool. Data integrity, data availability, all the core, one of the most important things. We'll show that in our hub and spoke example in a few slides. And again, expertise in this space. We understand your pain points, we understand your processes, and what that does is really increase the speed and the time of value that our customers see a reward out of their enterprise platforms and products like ThoughtSpot. What is our relationship with ThoughtSpot? Currently, we're assisting on know why you really want analytics, right? Define your problem and business objectives up front. Plan for the measurement and metrics before you begin, right? You can't declare success unless you define it first. So we assist with that. Defining your analytic project need goals. Align your projects with your corporate strategies, right? With your profitability, with your process excellence objectives. Your analytics team needs to work specifically with your business users, right? They know their processes. They have the best insights for achieving business value from analytics. So work very closely with them, and we support that. And at the end of the day, understand the critical need for speed to insights. The speed of business is fast, and the speed of change is extremely frequent, right? So how do you go from data to product to strategy to execution to value? That is what SME supports and helps you with. Now I'm going to pass it over to Brian McCarthy. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Chris. Really appreciate you having ThoughtSpot and the team here today to present. We greatly appreciate your partnership and all the things that SME Group does to extend the ThoughtSpot platform, adding value to our customers. You're a wonderful partner, and we can't thank you enough again for the opportunity to present here today and for your partnership. So thank you, everybody. As Chris said, I lead the sales and services customer success organization at ThoughtSpot. We're super happy to have an opportunity to speak with everybody here. Our core technology is really search and AI-driven analytics. We created a platform from the ground up that enables you to apply relational search to the enterprise, and then leverage a product called SpotIQ to really drive AI, machine learning into the enterprise to answer questions even before you think to ask them. We have a heavy customer base, all different sizes and shapes, but very heavy in the large enterprise space. Really happy customer community, very referenceable. In fact, I think that's one of the things that has differentiated us. Everybody has those, what I call the NASCAR slide, right, with a ton of customers and that they claim as customer logos that they claim as customers. The thing is, we're like maniacally focused on customer success at ThoughtSpot. We're in love with our customers and our partners, and I think that love is reciprocated. We have an incredible retention rate that's, I think, off the charts. I think we had more customers that spoke to Gartner on our behalf than any of the other major BI vendors, and yet we're this small software company that was founded not more than 6 years ago, and only really started selling software 4 years ago. For those that haven't heard, we are a Magic Quadrant leader, which is super exciting. That we're actually the first new entrant into the Magic Quadrant in 6 years. We're actually the fastest company to ever make it into the top right leaders quadrant. And so where analytic market is going, it was really the vision behind ThoughtSpot being created. And it is our marketplace. Typically, I would whiteboard this out as we were walking through it, but in a very easy build out, I just want to walk through the key problem statement of what ThoughtSpot, what ThoughtSpot does, why it exists, and what is the key problem that we're after. And it often starts with solving pain, pain within people and processes within the enterprise. And most specifically, that pain exists within data consumers. We have millions and millions of data consumers that are looking to ask questions within data that is rapidly growing. and expanding. But this is a challenge. You have something like 1.2 billion employees that are looking to leverage data to drive business decisions, to drive insights on a daily basis. They have questions that they want answers to. No different than any of us in our personal life, right? That we want to answer a question. Well, think of this same dynamic in the workplace. You have all of these line of business folks that are trying to get answers to critical business questions, some tactical, some strategic. But to get answers to those questions typically takes 5 days. And when I walk people through this, they always laugh and say 5 days, try 3 weeks. And why is that? That's because getting information and making the data usable to answer those questions is Herculean. You have a question and you reach out to an analyst. And for every 1.2 billion data consumers, there's only 1.5 million data scientists and analysts out there. So there's a huge backlog. And these analysts then go through an iterative process or a series of modeling out the data, identifying where that data exists, building out or a dashboard and distributing it back to the data consumer. And this infinity loop lasts 5 days. But the reality is it's an infinity loop because every time a data consumer gets an answer to a question, that drives their mind into asking additional questions, which continues this loop of never-ending question and answer and creates a long backlog. This is the problem statement. This is what really causes enterprises to struggle to get really BI adoption. Gartner talks about BI adoption at 21%. That's 1 of every 5 licenses consumed is being used. That's just because the time lag to get value is lost. Those decisions have to be made in a much more business, critical timing. And so when we look at these data consumers, who are they? They're executives, they're management, and they're knowledge workers. And when we talk to many of our customers, they'll tell us that these top 100 execs often have a white glove service. And I've experienced that myself. As a in a CRO role, leading a technology company. If I have a question that I need to get an answer to, I can get that built for me fairly quickly. There's a team that will drop what they're doing to get an answer fast. But the problem is this pyramid is kind of turned on its head when it comes to the people that are most protecting your brand, the people that are most interacting with your customers and your suppliers, the thousands of knowledge workers and thousands of management that are required every day to make decisions of how to interact with customers, of how to interact with suppliers, with making decisions, some tactical and some strategic, on a daily basis, that don't have anybody responding to their questions, or the time, as we pointed out, is so long that it creates what we call a curiosity tax. And this curiosity tax is forcing thousands and thousands of knowledge workers to stop asking the questions and to start making decisions just based around gut. So if we just kind of threw some math out there and said, 2 decisions were made every day per person, and 50% were covered by some existing report, that means 10,000 decisions a day are made by gut. And this isn't how any company wants to run their business, wants to be a data-driven company, wants to maximize the value of all the data they're collecting. And so at ThoughtSpot, our goal is to turn this pyramid on its head. Not that the executives won't continue to get tremendous access, but that up and down the stack, everybody can get answers to their questions as quick as they can ask them, and can explore the data and leverage it to drive real decisions. Creating really, think of it as a decision engine, an answer engine, to be able to move quickly to personalize your customers and your suppliers and to drive business value. So how do we do that? When you think about it, the number of questions that, someone would have to think about to answer those questions are, so numerous. Just think about like a big retail company that has thousands of SKUs, product SKUs, times thousands of stores, times thousands of at thousands of different margin rates, at multiple different days, and against multiple different promotions, which could be, in theory, the type of question that somebody is looking for when they want to know what products are sold in which store, at what margin, and leveraging what marketing campaign. Now, to ask this type of question ahead of time would require an analyst to potentially run through 1 billion scenarios of what the question could be that the line of business has, to pre-aggregate that and make that readily available on a dashboard. This is akin to winning the Powerball. It just doesn't happen. And so you can't think of all the potential questions that your business is going to ask ahead of time, which leads to this curiosity tax in which they stop asking. This is what ThoughtSpot does. ThoughtSpot allows you, in the same kind of environment that we've all come to know in a Google search-like environment, to throw a Google search bar like around all of those questions. So rather than asking an analyst to go read the future, we put the power into the hands of the knowledge workers, put the power in the hands of the business to type that question in a search bar and to get their answer. And then furthermore, we have a learning engine, which is called SpotIQ, which will run thousands and thousands of queries across the data that will learn through your searching and the types of questions that you ask and your profile and who you are and what you're interested in, and start to ask those questions on your behalf and run those queries and drive those insights automatically, so that 70–80% of all of your questions are asked for you without you ever having to create a search or ask a question. We call this SpotIQ, and it's smart insights at the speed of thought. So I'm hopeful this gives everybody an idea of the problem statement. Billions of people asking questions, huge backlog to be able to service those questions. A large curiosity tax has driven our founders and ThoughtSpot into creating a relational search engine for the enterprise to answer questions for everybody, easy, simple, and to enable a learning engine to ask questions on your behalf, to drive insights for you when you're busy doing your day job. So I'm going to turn this over to my colleague to give you a real run through the actual demo of ThoughtSpot. Thank you again, Chris, for having us. We're super excited to partner with you, and wish everybody a great afternoon. Thanks. Take care.
Hello and welcome to ThoughtSpot. Over the next several minutes, I'm going to be giving you a demo of our product against a grocery store chain's retail sales. So think customer, store, product sales. Here's ThoughtSpot. When I first log in, you can see I have a very interactive home screen. Now I have the search bar prominent. I have some suggested searches. I have some recently trending information. Now these are dashboards, we call them pinboards, that others or IT has created and shared with me. I have my recently viewed information, the pinboards that are most interesting to me to look at day over day. I can see the activity of my team, and I even have some insights that are being offered up by SpotIQ, our insight and anomaly detection engine, which I might want to dig into a little deeper. And we're going to do that in a few minutes. Let's open up one of these pinboards that were shared out with me, like store performance. Now this is not a cache pinboard. All of these elements on this pinboard are refreshed via a live search, and it looks like any other product and any other dashboard. Very, very interactive. I've got pinboard filters, and I can even put this in the presentation mode. Now, as great as a dashboard is, we start with the question of why would you build dashboards to answer a question to begin with? We search in our daily lives with Google and Amazon, so why can't I just search my data? And with ThoughtSpot, you can do that very easily. Let's see how. Let me just do a very simple search. Maybe sales by store state. And just like that, what I would expect is I get a map back. And I can see that my sales are doing very well in California and Texas, but I need to dive in a little deeper. But first, let's go ahead and I'll show you how simple it is to create that pin board. I, as an end user, can create my own pin boards by just clicking the pin button and adding it to a pin board, because I'm going to be sharing this out with others, this analysis. Let's do another sample search. Now, you can see that ThoughtSpot was automatically auto-completing some of the visualizations as I typed. But again, what I would normally ask an analyst, I got back to me as the chart type that I would expect. Now I can go in and click on this chart button and choose from 21 other chart types like stack columns. So I can change the visualization, which would be more appealing to me. And I can even show data mode, table mode, or I can sort and do other actions like download to Excel if I wish. Let's go in and do that search one more time so you can see what ThoughtSpot is actually doing behind the scenes. So as I'm typing, you'll notice that ThoughtSpot is automatically completing the tokens and then giving me some other search suggestions, just like Google would. So as I start typing store, you can see it's suggesting store region, store name, store city. If I click the more button here, right, it's also showing data elements that are within my data, like my Stockton store. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue with store region. Now, the power here is that this is search at scale. I did not have to build any data warehouse aggregate tables, materialized view. This is 5 million rows of data. It could be millions of rows of data, and we can still search at scale. So think transaction level information that you and your customers would want to easily dig into. Now, let's go ahead and type some sort of time granularity like monthly, and you can see that's very busy. So I can now apply a filter and get back to the original chart that I had, that I pinned. Let's go ahead and pin that as well. Okay. Now, this again is a very interactive visualization. So I can see that the West is doing pretty well and the East is not doing so well. So let's dig into one of these low points here. And I can right click and drill down. Now this drill down capability is not predefined. This is drill to any attribute within my data model. And ThoughtSpot understands me and my usage of ThoughtSpot. So it's kind of ranking what I normally drill into, like store name. And you can see that I've got a lot of stores that are going on. Maybe I just want to look at my top 23 stores. Any ranking works, right? And maybe pin that to my pin board as well. So you can see I just did a very simple search, was able to dig into what seemed to be a low point within my data, then see what top performing stores were within that month in that region. And even SpotIQ is surfacing up some anomalies down here. But let's see what I can do with SpotIQ. I know that the East region itself is actually not performing as well compared to other store regions. So let's actually just do another search. And let's go ahead and just pick the East. Okay, and there's my data. And let's go ahead and kick off an auto analyze. So now, as rich as this data set is, I can go in and I notice that I have about 11 million in store sales, and I have lots of attributes and lots of measures that I can go into. Now, as simple as search is, there is no way for me to know everything about my data. And that's where SpotIQ comes in. It's like having the power of 1,000 analysts at my disposal to find insights, anomalies, and trends for me to make business decisions. So let's go ahead and find out what SpotIQ found for me. If I go up to SpotIQ, you can see it just completed. Now again, it searched at scale. It analyzed about over 5 million rows, did it in a couple of seconds. If I were to click on this information button, you can see that it performed 11 drills and discovered 7 insights that were relevant to me. Now I can go through and find these, like I see that the Massachusetts has significantly higher sales. I've got some customers that have higher sales. And I have some other information like diet type. Now maybe diet type isn't interesting to me. So just like ThoughtSpot and SpotIQ is learning from my interactions with ThoughtSpot, I can even upvote or downvote this to say, that's not very interesting to me. Don't run that again. I can even dive into one of these pinboard items, these SpotIQ items, and even pin it to my existing pinboard that I'm creating along the way. Now, I also have the ability to further customize SpotIQ by clicking on the Custom Analysis button to tell SpotIQ what I care about, what fields I don't care about, and even customize the algorithms at my disposal, including embedding custom R scripts. And we have a partnership with DataRobot on the immediate horizon. Let's go back and look at that pinboard that I was constructing along the way. Now this is fantastic. I can go in here and I can auto size this, right? Rearrange them, move them around, save the layout. Now I, as an end user, am doing this. I didn't have to call IT to create a dashboard for me. And we all know in our personal lives that when you get asked a question, you're probably presenting some data. And so I can easily present this pinboard by just clicking on the presentation button and have an interactive kind of slide format, which I can go visualization by visualization. And then when asked a question, I have the capability to drill down and see that information really quick and make a business decision. No more calling an analyst and waiting the average of four days for me to get that business decision answered. I also have the ability to go in here and share this with others. For example, if I wanted to share it out with my CEO, and whether she can edit or view it. Now, the fantastic part here is they'll get an email, and now we have a collaborative discussion across my data. Now, as simple as that is, ThoughtSpot has one other interactivity way, and that's via voice. So I can go up here and press my microphone icon and say, show me sales for the East for the last 2 years by department. And there we go. Just like that, it took what I spoke and converted it to tokenized search. And these are also interactive, and I can pin these to my pinboard as well. That's the power of ThoughtSpot. That's the power of search against your enterprise data. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Now I will show you ThoughtSpot's search and AI analytics capabilities within utility data and use cases. I'm going to work with data centered around meters at a utility company in the Southeast. I've loaded in about 150 million rows of meter read, alarms, and work order data to see how our network has performed over a 3-month period and determine what improvements we can make based on our analysis. Our network spans across 6 states and 4 different operating companies. For this demo, our interval reads are aggregated to a daily level. So starting on my home page, ThoughtSpot's going to recommend what it thinks is insightful and useful across all of my data sets. One of the trending pieces is an answer called weekly read rate, which we will use as the centerpiece of our analysis. Our goal is to have a weekly read rate of over 99%. Our first week of the set is just shy of that. But you see we have a huge dip immediately following that, and even though we recover from it, we are still not able to break 99%. So I want to figure out what factors are contributing to our declining read rate and how we can correct them. First, let's do a quick search to see how many meters we have on the network. I simply type in meters, and we quickly get an answer of just over 2 million. If I wanted to see how these meters are split up across my 4 operating companies, I just add operating company to my search. Now that I know what the distribution looks like, let's see the timeline of misreads throughout my network. I'm going to modify my search to add in misreads. To plot it over time, it's as easy as adding read date and weekly to get the time series that I want. Notice that ThoughtSpot is able to handle search at scale by aggregating and plotting the results of hundreds of billions of rows in milliseconds. From here I can see that South Power has the most misreads for most weeks. Its highest point in misreads lines up with our lowest point in the weekly read rate answer. Rather than asking a bunch of my own questions across this point, I'm going to analyze this with SpotIQ. The great thing about SpotIQ is that it takes my search criteria and analyzes all the different combinations in my dataset to give me insights that I may or may not have thought to ask. So let me go to the SpotIQ engine page to see what it found. It found 5 insights by going through 1.5 billion rows, all in a little over a second. That's very impressive. Notice how it links the rest of my data points to the original query. Here's a good one. The majority of our misses came from a residential premise code. I probably would not have thought to search for this on my own, but having this information is useful to me, so I'm going to give this a thumbs up. This will help ThoughtSpot tailor my future insights. Down here we have the misreads by state breakdown, which is another useful insight. But I think we can make an action off-ramp out of this. I'll give this one a thumbs up and head back to our search bar. I'm going to search for both meters and misses by state. Because our attribute is state, ThoughtSpot's going to recommend a map, but I want to visualize both meters and misses by state, not just one or the other. So I can easily change my visualization to something that will better represent my data, like a line column. Looking at this, the majority of the states have a strong correlation between the number of meters and the number of missed reads. North Carolina looks like it's in great shape, having a similar amount of meters to Tennessee, but only half the amount of misses. On the other hand, South Carolina has the least amount of meters by far, but has more misreads than many of the other states. I want to figure out which meters are regularly missing reads. To do that, all I have to do is right-click on this point and drill down into whatever field I want. The out-of-the-box drill down feature doesn't require a predefined drill path. So when I drill into meter, I get a chart showing all of the meters in South Carolina and how many misses they have. Now, something that I can take immediate action on is finding the meters that have been missing reads for over a month. I can add a data limit in the search bar, like misses is greater than 45, to easily filter down my data. With this, I can save this as an answer. Now that I've saved it, I can share this with my colleague Jack, who's the manager of the South Carolina region. He can pick up the analysis right away and start investigating the meters. Now I want to dive deeper into the big picture analysis. Let's take a look at how many accumulated misses we've had over time. On the surface, it looks like our line is flattening, which is a good thing. Before moving forward, I want to see if we can get a prediction of the near future of this metric. With ThoughtSpot, you can use out-of-the-box R scripts, like time series forecast, to run models against your data. Based on this 80% confidence interval, our forecast is looking better for the future. But in order for us to have a better future, we need to make sure that we're taking reactive steps that we have learned from the past. Going back to my chart, I'm going to add a regression line and use the calendar feature to change it to monthly. It's clearly obvious that things started to pick up around mid-July, but I bet if we tie this together with our alarm data, we can figure out how to make changes to minimize or anticipate future misreads. I'm going to search for my alarms over time. And would you look at that spike in alarms in the first week of July? This data does help us by itself, but I can benefit more from this by looking at it with the work order data side by side. I'm going to create a pin board and add this to it for future analysis. Next, let's drill down into this week by alarm description to see what kind of alarms we had. I only want to see the most frequent alarms, so I'm going to use the top 10 keyword in the search bar to filter my data. While time changed is an alarm, it doesn't add any value to this use case. So to filter it out, all I have to do is right-click and exclude it. Our top 2 alarms are high voltage and low voltage. If I remember correctly, this week had a lot of powerful storms throughout the southeast. The power surge can cause the alarms to experience high voltage, immediately followed by low voltage. I'm curious to see what this looks like next to our work order data. So let's search for work orders by work order date. Now I know that the only work order category I'm interested in for this is exchange. Because all of my data is indexed, I can just start typing in exchange into the search bar, and ThoughtSpot will recognize the value in work order category. With this filter applied, I'm going to pin this to the pin board to compare to alarms. Let's check out our pin board. Seeing them both together, the timeline matches up. For each of these, let's get a more granular view and drill into their descriptions. Looking at this, the amount of voltage alarms significantly outweigh the number of work orders. This has uncovered that the storms created a much larger issue in our network than we thought. This leads me to my next action off-ramp to increase our network's performance. We need to get a list of the meters affected by this as soon as possible. Let's use the SearchIQ feature to gather this information. SearchIQ is different from the normal search bar in that it uses natural language processing, which converts sentences and voice to a query. I'll start by saying, show me the percent of bad meters with a work order. And SearchIQ will do its best to bring back the results. Note how it can automatically ignore certain words. In this case, it brought back all meters with a work order, which isn't exactly what we want. But I can teach SearchIQ to take certain phrases and assign them to a field. So I'll take bad meters and assign it to the filter partial misread. Now this is what we want. But look, roughly 1% of our meters with misreads are being taken care of. So let's get a list of all of the meters that don't have work orders. Bad meter with no work orders by meter. I can save this as meters needing investigation. From here, I can share this with our network performance analysts. They can start by creating meter investigation work orders to see what next steps need to be taken. Once the investigations are complete, we can determine which meters need a physical exchange or which ones can be resolved through the smart grid. The smart grid resolutions do not require rolling out the trucks, which will save us a lot of money in the end. By bringing all of my data together, I have identified the factors contributing to our declining success rate. From here, I can make sure that work orders get assigned to failing meters and that we have enough staff to help complete them. As you can see, ThoughtSpot's a highly scalable analytics platform that allows for billions of rows of data to be analyzed. It simplifies the user experience by giving them the ability to easily search for their answers while also delivering great insights in simplest of forms. The scale and simplicity of ThoughtSpot is unrivaled, as well as the benefits seen by customers from these differentiators. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Wow, pretty impressive demos of the product and how it's used in a utility environment to drive actionable insights. Would you call them actionable off-ramps? Pretty clever. It was great to see the value that can be achieved with some of those key differentiating features of ThoughtSpot that just can't get done elsewhere. Simple, smart, and enterprise grade. That's really the difference. You can do some searching with other tools. There's some AI type capabilities with other tools, but the out-of-the-box functionality that George highlighted a few times in his demo, the speed and scale to have hundreds of billions of rows of data to perform search and AI against, and rendering all those insights into the simplest of interfaces, it's truly unrivaled. Simply put, no other solution can do search and AI-driven analytics at scale, yet with simplicity for massive amounts of users, period. We found that scenarios and use cases with lots of users, lots of data, and lots of curiosity are most efficiently fulfilled by the highly scalable, fast, and simple search-based interface of ThoughtSpot. ThoughtSpot is data licensed versus end-user licensing, and that, along with such a natural search interface, drives high end-user adoption of solutions, which helps become a more data and insights-driven organization. The lack of BI enhancement queues and reduction in requirements phase of projects are also big value drivers usually seen by IT departments or BI development shops. Let's take a look at how other utility use cases that fit into this model and how those utilities achieved value. As we look at some other utility use cases where people have implemented ThoughtSpot with success, the first one we'll take a look at is how Greg Anderson at MDU Resources implemented ThoughtSpot and some of the significant business impacts he experienced from that implementation. MDU Resources is the parent company of several businesses, one of which includes a group of utilities that provide energy services. This group includes Cascade Natural Gas, Great Plains Gas, and Montana Dakota Utilities. They service about 1.1 million utility customers from Minnesota to Washington and Oregon, transmitting and distributing natural gas and electricity along the way. Of course, when you're in the delivery of natural gas to people's homes business, the very top priority is safety. Safety for their customers, safety for their employees, and safety in the communities that they serve. In the natural gas delivery business, gas moves from supplier to mains to distribution lines to service lines all the way to a service point, which is your home. Along the way, the product is pressurized, it passes through many devices that measure and regulate the pressure, and it monitors the quantity end to end and does this in a safe manner. There are, of course, many rules and regulations for pipeline inspection and safety management, and this drives the master inspection schedule for each district. A central planning and dispatching office would send inspection schedules to each district to comply with regulations. The previous process was done with a Microsoft Access database, and the process included writing queries to build tables to enable querying the data to end users. This took about 3 days to make data available to end users. On top of it, it delivered that information in not the most appealing way. It was difficult for people to consume and to follow the schedules to stay on track. So inspections fell behind due to the delays with providing the data and the complexity of the information that the users needed to consume. They needed a better, faster, and simpler solution to this situation. In addition, their key requirements included bringing in all the data. This saved them a lot of time versus trimming the data down and working around scalability constraints. It was also in preparation for potential AI insights. As with SpotIQ, you get the most out of it if you have all the data considered and questions asked against that large data set that you saw in the demos today. So scalability was a must. And the last key requirement was to deliver this inspection performance information to end users in the simplest of formats to enable interaction and adoption. They landed on a ThoughtSpot solution that housed all the data. It simplified the delivery of information to each of their 30-plus districts and the consumers within each one of them. And it was a very visually appealing view of upcoming workload and inspection priorities. Adoption was extremely high and very quick as well, as there was less than 2 minutes of training needed for the end users. They were able to streamline the process, get their inspection performance back into the green, and in addition, since they consumed all the data, they were able to get unexpected insights with SpotIQ. The end result is that they enhanced the ability of their inspectors to be more safe and more in compliance, and as a result of the high adoption, their ThoughtSpot implementation improved the safety risk profile for the entire organization. So a great success story of using ThoughtSpot in the utility industry. Let's take a look at some additional utility use cases that are a good fit for ThoughtSpot. Okay, so in addition to that great success story and use case at MDU, for ThoughtSpot, let's take a look at a couple other use cases in the utility industry that we think are a good fit for being solved by ThoughtSpot. Again, anywhere we see lots of data, lots of users, and lots of curiosity is a good fit. One here is Commercial Energy Efficiency and Consumption Portal. What that was utility was required to provide consumption and energy efficiency information to all commercial building owners and managers in their city. This was over 400 users. The requirement was a highly scalable data store with all this data available to end users in a very simple method. They specifically wanted no or minimal training to their end users because they were not going to be engaging with their end users. It was just a portal that had to be out there. This was a great fit for ThoughtSpot. The data licensing helped trim down costs with the massive amounts of data that they wanted to see, and the several end users that they wanted to log into this portal, the licenses was covered because it's data license. The other is that the simplicity of the end user interface. Nothing is as simple to search and answer questions of those users in masses with almost no training. Another use case in utilities is outage management. Outage certainly fits the bill well with lots of curiosity and, of course, lots of data and lots of users. There's almost limitless potential. One utility is mashing up their outage management data records with their CIS records, asset management data points, and AMI sensor data, and not just from meters, but also from distribution automation devices. This is enabling over 500 engineers and stakeholders to access this data and do analysis on outages across that entire data set and the entire organization. One last example is asset management. Lots of data here as well, and one utility is taking that data from their assets as well as their AMI sensor data in addition to synchrophaser data, and they're getting new insights into their asset management life cycles and are able to improve and optimize their reliability. One thing that's great about this is that all these customers experience this time to value in just a few weeks to prep their data to be able to search and get insights with almost no ongoing support needed or enhancement queues to be burdened with. So those are a few examples of some additional use cases in the utility industry where ThoughtSpot is a best fit.
Okay, thanks, Ron. We have a few minutes left, so let's move on to the Q&A section. We've already seen a few questions come in, but please keep them coming and using the chat box. Even if we do not get your questions, we'll follow up with you after the webinar. Ron, do you want to kick things off?
I saw a few questions regarding how ThoughtSpot can handle terabytes of data, and will I be able to search through billions and billions of rows, even if it's terabytes of data? This is exactly what ThoughtSpot was built to do, search at scale. Your data is indexed once it's loaded into ThoughtSpot, and then it'll be fully ready for search regardless of the data volume. George, I'm going to let you answer this next one. Questions about adding new data sources and trying to understand if it's easy to expand their cluster to handle this new data volume.
Yep, adding nodes to ThoughtSpot is a very simple process and allows you to scale up without having any hassle.
Okay, great. And George, I have another one for you. Can ThoughtSpot send automated and scheduled emails?
Absolutely. There's a pinboard scheduling feature that you can set up for reoccurring distribution of ThoughtSpot pinboards to both ThoughtSpot users and any email address that you may have.
Okay, great. Let's see, here's one. Oh, here's one that I think I can actually handle. Someone asked, I've seen search and insight generation with Power BI. What's different about ThoughtSpot? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's really scale and speed plus the out-of-the-box functionality with ThoughtSpot. Specifically, doing complex searches with automated insights on billions of rows of data that's what's really different about ThoughtSpot. Plus, the out-of-the-box functionality for search, natural language, and drill downs requires less effort to achieve with ThoughtSpot compared to other solutions. All right, let's see. I see a security question here. George, can you share a few details on ThoughtSpot security measures? I've seen a question or two regarding limiting who sees what data.
There are multiple different security measures within ThoughtSpot. You can assign user and group-based security to limit the amount of data, answers, or pinboards available to the end user. And there's also row-based security definitions that you can have.
Okay, great. Thank you, George. I think we have time for one more here. I see it on users, and I think I might be able to tackle this one as well. The question was, we have hundreds of users that would want to be able to access the data at the same time. Can ThoughtSpot handle this need? Definitely. ThoughtSpot's a highly scalable for concurrent users. In fact, it's data licensed, not user licensed, and it expects to have many end users searching through the data and getting insights through the data all at the same time. So definitely scaling to many concurrent users at the same time is how ThoughtSpot was built. Lots of great questions. There's a couple remaining. What I'll do is I'll circle back with the presenters and get each of your questions answered, and we'll email out all the information to all the attendees. Now, just a few things to keep in mind before we wrap up this call. If you have any additional questions, feel free to email us or call us. The information's on the screen right now. Also, you can connect with SME on LinkedIn and request to join the ThoughtSpot user group within LinkedIn as well. Thanks to everyone for your time today, and have a wonderful rest of the day.